I'm Grace from Red Rum True Crime, and this is The Final Cut. I am thrilled to have Alice from Truly Criminal here.
Hello! Oh my gosh, I am so excited.
We are going to be tackling every single one of the Paranormal Activity films.
There is nothing more frightening, I don't think, than being upstairs and hearing a noise coming from downstairs and having to go and investigate it.
Mm-hmm. Stop! Mika. Oh, Mika.
And then she says, you should answer the door first, and the doorbell rings.
No, I don't like it. I've just put my feet up on my chair. You know, when like I don't want it to get me from under the bed. Oh my god! Find us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're tasting reminders of Scarlet and making one last deal on a killing. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom!
Groovy.
Hello, and welcome back to another week of Off Screen. So, we've got a load of movies to talk about this week, of course, as you just heard then. We're going to look at One Last Deal, Scarlet, Reminders of Him, How to Make a Killing. But as always, Van, let's start with the UK and Ireland box office top 10. So, at number 10, out for 2 weeks, we're talking Othello.
Yes, this is the National Theatre live thing they do. I saw one of these a few years back. I don't think you and I were reviewing together back then, but it was Frankenstein. It was Danny Boyle's Frankenstein. This one, I think, is David Harewood in Othello, and I believe I've heard it's Toby Jones as Iago. So I'd actually be intrigued. I would watch this. Did you do Othello at school?
No, didn't.
Did you not?
No, didn't do that at all. I have no idea what the Othello story is even about.
Oh, okay. I love it. I'm a big fan of Othello. The Ken Branagh, I think it's Kenneth Branagh and Denzel Washington movie from the 90s. That's pretty good, if memory serves. But yeah, I quite like the story of Othello. Most famously, Josh Hartnett starred a modernised version, I believe, in about the year 2000 called O, which I'd actually be intrigued to revisit. But yeah, I've not seen this. I hear good things. It's a National Theatre show, so it's not really our remit generally. Neither is the next one on our list, which I believe is this is the ballet Giselle, Royal Opera House, London.
You mean you haven't seen it?
No, sadly. Do you know what? It slipped off my radar. I had plans. Man, I was there. I had the big foam finger. I had my popcorn already. Missed the train. That's what happened.
Yeah. Well, that's at number 9. Number 8, Crime 101. That's been out for 4 weeks now, and that's doing all right. That's just made over 4 million.
It's cheap and cheerful, gritty, down and dirty for the adults. Kind of Den of Thieves, Heat knockoff kind of crime thriller with Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo. It's the kind of movie that we used to get all the time. Like, I swear when I started reviewing movies, it was 12 years ago. It's 14 years ago now, 15 years ago. And movies like this were a lot more common then. Like, I swear we had one of these every month, minimum. But yeah, it's a rarity. And I think people are finding it quite refreshing now to be able to go back to something quite old-fashioned at the movies.
One I'm really surprised with this week is number 7. So Elvis Presley in concert. It's been out 2 weeks. It's only made 2.8 million. Now, in my eyes, I might be wrong on this. I expected it to go stratospheric.
No, I don't know about that. I think as well, there is obviously the thing. I think people, if they have the opportunity with that, will go for the IMAX, mega sound system kind of performance, which again limits like the number of performances that then pack out and things like that. And it'll obviously do better on days, for instance, where what Bex used to call the Grey Pound comes into effect, where they apply their senior discounts and things like that. But again, Elvis just skews older now than he ever did before.
Of course, because everyone's got older as time has rolled on, I suppose.
Exactly. This ain't Star Wars. It's not like they're pumping out new material to lure the next generation in, you know what I mean?
Right, and number 6 is Goat. That's been out for 4 weeks. This is quite impressive. That's done nearly 12.5 million quid in 4 weeks.
I do not for the life of me get how. Like, I really don't. I was on the Elizabeth line the other day with Kermode. We were on our way from Sony. We'd watched, I will just say, an animated film at Sony. And we were all, and it was a long one, and we were all kind of deflated. And I couldn't help myself. I think I brought up at one point, why is it every time I see an animated movie at Sony lately, it's a real snooze? And he asked me, like, what was the last one? I went, Goat. And he goes, oh, okay. I think he thought more highly of that than me. I just found it an absolute dud of a movie. That they're so clearly trying to hook onto the sort of branding of Spider-Verse, K-pop Demon Hunters, Mitchell vs. the Machine style animation, that they've given it that sort of artificial frame jitter thing, slowed the frame rate down, given it a bit of jitter. And I'm sorry, it just didn't work on me. Boring movie. Really uninteresting, really dull, unlikable characters, just unenchanting vocal talents. The dulcet tones of Steph Curry do nothing for me because I'm really not an NBA guy. But, it was lost on me. But then again, the amount of money it's made, obviously it has found that kid audience. And I know there was a big NBA sort of marketing push with this because of Steph Curry producing it and starring in it in a supporting capacity. So obviously it's worked. Obviously it wasn't for me. I'd be interested to hear what my 7-year-old nephew thought of it, or your 7-year-old son thought of it as well. But I made clearly it's not for you or I.
At number 5, the movie I think is named after a loaf of bread called Mother's Pride. It's been out for a week, £700,000. It's definitely, I'm sure there was a loaf of bread called Mother's Pride in the 80s.
Yeah, I'm sure there probably was. But I'm glad this is doing well, actually. I thought this was sweet. Look, it's not amazing, right? This is no one's film of the year stuff right here. You know what I mean? Like, you're not double billing this and I Swear. You know what I mean? It is literally another product off the Fisherman's Friends kind of assembly line of twee little British, skews slightly older. There's a sweet lilted Ballykiss Angel kind of humour to it. And fair play, Martin Clunes is like the granddad age guy who's walloping people in his pub, and you've got James Buckley from The Inbetweeners there to supposedly skew to people sort of our age, I guess. But I mean, in theory it works. I found it perfectly charming, but like I say, look, this is not going to reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean?
And this week, number 4 is The Bride. That's been out a week, £700,000.
Ain't looking good for this one, eh? Reviews were not kind. Thought mine was bad. Actually, no, we didn't get to review it on here, did we, last week? You and I talked about it on the Beep. But we didn't actually get to do the off-screen review as such, which is this film's a bloody mess. Like, I can see what they're trying for, but it just does not work. And the attempt here... It would work a lot better if the concept was very simply, look, it's Bride of Frankenstein by way of Bonnie and Clyde, right? So it's the 1930s. We do the plot of Bride of Frankenstein. Angry mob catches them. They go on the run. They become Bonnie and Clyde. Great enough. That would have worked, actually, even if you applied all the stylization of the film as it currently exists to that. Would have been amazing. What really kills it stone dead is this this weird possession, reincarnation, past lives nonsense thing that they add to it, where she's possessed of the spirit of Mary Shelley, and there's these interstitials where they're in a black void arguing with one another, and it becomes badly incoherent, shouty nonsense. And you think, can we please get back to Bride of Frankenstein by way of Bonnie and Clyde? And then just when they do that, they stop dead to do a musical number or two, and you're thinking, good Lord, it's like this movie was put here to test me. And yeah, and that's ultimately how I just came out feeling tested and mostly beaten, if I'm really honest.
Well, that's The Bride at number 4. This week at number 3 is Wuthering Heights. That's been out 4 weeks now. That doesn't surprise me. £23 million.
Yeah, I mean, it makes its money, this one, doesn't it? Wuthering Heights.
They knew it was going to.
It's a marketing delight, this thing. You know what I mean? Between Emerald Fennell, Margot Robbie, Jacob Elordi, Charlie XCX, Bronte, the Wuthering Heights brand that already existed. You just got so much like cachet going for you on this one. You can lure them Bronte fans and you can lure them Robbie fans. You know what I mean? It's a hard one to lose money on. There were people talking about this in the run-up to it coming out, like, of it being a financial disaster because it costs so much. But you think, like, no, there's so much, like, just on the checklist for this film. It's hard not to see people, even if you want to go just to hate on it, you're still going to go and pay to put bum on seat. You know what I mean? Like, it's making that buck either way.
I think because also they made it a bit raunchy. Everyone's been talking about how raunchy it is, so there's a bit of intrigue as well. I think.
Nah, it ain't that raunchy. I mean, I know they're trying to push this angle, and the film knowingly does it. Like early on, the opening moments of the film, incidentally, are the distributor logos, which are one of them is called Lucky Chap. Was it Lay Back or Lay Down is one of the companies. The other one is Lucky Chap. And over these two logos, you hear the sound of a man moaning.
Right.
Now,
what, as in empty the dishwasher?
Just you hear a man moaning, and then it cuts to the first thing you see is a man being hung. And it's like one of those things where they're trying to draw the sexuality. There's a lot of like the focusing on squelchiness of household objects and things like that. Like the film is really playing it up, despite the fact that all the raunchiness is literally confined to, as I've told you before, one single sustained montage. Really it. Nothing more. That's it.
And I guess the rest is suggestion, which is what people are
but
talking about.
The rest is more or less suggestion. There's a lot of Margot Robbie in corsets. You know what I mean? You get your bang for your buck.
Well, that's at 3. You definitely don't get your bang for your buck, really, man. Let's be honest.
Not in the literal sense. No.
Number 2 is Scream 7. Of course, that's been out for 2 weeks. 6 million.
I have not seen it. I'm going to hold my hands up. I've not seen it. Look, you know why? It's a Paramount movie, so obviously I ain't getting on any press list for anything Paramount. And also, I just haven't had time to pop down the Odeon and catch it. And I've not been encouraged to by the fact that like every Scream friend I have has, in like uniformity, every single one of them gone, this is the worst one. Yeah, like, I had one friend who knows me quite well who told me, I said, do you know that movie that you think Scream 3 is? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, no, this is that movie. I'm like, oh, okay, because I'm really hard on Scream 3. I think Scream 3 is an absolute mess. But yeah, this is that. I don't think any of the Scream sequels ever particularly worked until number 5 anyway, but neither here nor there. But I know the ins and outs of the plot mechanics of this one. I think it's absolutely ludicrous. I'm sure it'll be on streaming like in a week or so. They'll just surprise drop it, and then I'll find out.
Yeah, same. I'm not rushing to see it. We were going to see it, and then we watched something else, and so yeah, I'll wait. But number 1, not surprising really. I've seen so many people posting about this week, going to see it, and last week. It's Hoppers. It's been out a week, already nearly 5 million.
Isn't that nice? Do you know what? In an uncertain world, facing a bleak future for the species, and social turmoil and injustice, corruption, incel culture, the manosphere, as Louis Theroux brought up this week, in a time that contains all these, it's just nice to know that you can count on a Pixar movie opening big and just getting people in and just having a good old-fashioned family time. And that's nice. And Hoppers is a really good movie. I really loved Hoppers, which I've said before. I don't think we got to review it last week, obviously, but it's a better Avatar movie than any of the Avatar movies. Like, it's literally the plot of Avatar, except it's like a college girl avataring into the body of a robot beaver to go into the forest and talk to all the other animals to get them to come back to a bit of woodland that they've abandoned and that's about to get demolished. And that's the movie. And it's exactly as cute as that sounds. So, because Avatar is basically Fern Gully, the Last Rainforest, but with a lot of US imperialism, this actually leans harder into the Fern Gully of it and ditches the US imperialism. And it's just a sweet movie. And I found myself thinking, like, quite misty-eyed, like, about Fern Gully as I watched it. I thought, this is really sweet, and it's got a great voice cast, and, like, Pixar fun. Like, Albert will love this. You watch this with your son, Albert, you have just an unbelievable time.
I think it's on the list, 100%. So that's the UK and Ireland box office top 10 for this week. We are going to dive into our first movie next, a psychological thriller called How to Make a Killing. We'll see what Van thought of that in just a second. Stay there.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. Right, 2 movies here. We're going to look at The Tasters in a moment. But first, How to Make a Killing, which, as I said, psychological thriller, I think.
Yeah, you and I, we were talking off mic about this, and I say it's weird that you introed it that way because they really want to push in the marketing that this is a psychological thriller. Not only is it not a psychological thriller, it's actually not as original a movie as you'd think. They've just sort of slapped a new title on it. Did you ever see a really old movie? It was from 1949. And it was an Ealing movie called Kind Hearts and Coronets. Did you ever encounter it, like on telly or anything when you were growing up?
Never heard of it.
It was an old Ealing comedy. It had Alec Guinness, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I know him.
It had him as multiple members of this family. He played multiple parts in it. This is an adaptation of the same. Actually, it is an adaptation of the movie. It's not even an adaptation of the original novel. The basic premise of both versions is that you have a young working class man who's just living paycheck to paycheck, but he is actually the sort of cut-off heir to this vast family fortune. His mother was cut off for getting pregnant with him. She died in his childhood. And after telling him stories of him being like, so-and-so in line to this fortune, and upon her death, he decides, well, you know what? There's only like 7 people between me and that fortune. So, accidents happen. Only this version stars Glenn Powell. Have a listen.
Whatever happened to the Red Fellow Fortune?
I'll inherit it. Someday. There were 7 of them. 7 awful people. You're still poor, asshole! Between myself and $28 billion. Who are you? I'm Beckett. Was it that easy? Been occupied.
With what?
Occupations.
Well, call me when you've killed them all.
I'm sold. That sounds amazing.
Now, here's the problem with that. Okay, that sizzle reel that we just played, right? Okay, along with, as you described it, the way it's classified on IMDb, the sort of tone they've taken with the posters and the marketing suggests that this is a much darker movie than it actually is. Now, it's a very funny film. Like, I laughed a lot in it. And Glenn Powell obviously does comedy very well. You remember Anyone But You was his kind of breakout, kind of in his adult years, kind of role in recent years. He can do comedy. And he's absolutely delivering that here. He's got the charm. He's arguably too good looking for this role, which requires him to blend in. Like, there's so many times within the story, and then I had to blend in as long as he didn't see me and I'm blending in at this party. You're like, dude, you look like Glenn Powell. Like, come on. Like, I'll accept some stuff in fiction, but I will never accept that Glenn Powell can blend into a room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's pushing credibility. You know what I mean? And I saw a movie recently in which Ryan Gosling befriended a space lobster. So, you know what I mean? I can take a lot, but that I find ridiculous. I did like it. The problem I have with it is, although I do remember the original, and this has changed very little of the actual story. But, as you just demonstrate, the original is not exactly, a common revisit for most people. You know what I mean? It's not a movie that most people are even aware of nowadays. So it doesn't play as a perfectly original kind of movie. I just don't think it is either nasty enough or silly enough to pull off what it's trying to do. The actual, as a remake of Kind Hearts and Coronets, cool, I guess, good enough job, but nobody was asking for that. So if you're going to view this on its own merits, which you have to, because odds are you don't know Kind Hearts and Coronets, you're like, but this just doesn't really work. Why is this so soft? But at the same time, so kind of dark in places, and at the same time, Glenn Powell's playing it this way, but the movie wants to do it that way. And it's kind of there's a push and pull going on. And it's a shame because what works, and what doesn't just feels diluted.
So it's not just a case that the marketing was completely out then. It's actually got its own integral
It
problems.
is in the film as well. It permeates the film as well. I mean, they are 2 separate issues. They're going totally for 2 different things. But, I mean, the film itself is neither silly, is too nasty or too silly in accordance with itself, or vice versa. And then you have the marketing that wants to push it into an entirely different genre. Now, I kind of thought, personally, if you went into this looking for something that's kind of a halfway mix between Grosse Point Blank and American Psycho, but then with a sense of humour on top of that, then look no further. This is kind of it with Glenn Powell. And I think definitely is a more broadly appealing film than Hitman was last year for him, which was the other Richard Linklater one that he did. I think this has more broad, Saturday night at the multiplex appeal, but I still just don't think it's a great movie. And I don't know what it is about Glenn Powell movies, because I'm rooting for this guy. And the projects he's in, they just aren't getting there. You know what I mean? They're always like 3/4 of the way there. But then again, the same is also true of like Sydney Sweeney, where you like the projects, except for the Housemaid recently, like that was kind of an exception. But like neither of those two, who are like preordained movie stars, seem to be able to settle on finding the sweet spot with these projects. This should have been and could have been a slam dunk for Glenn Powell had they taken it down the slightly more Very Bad Things route and gone and actually, I think, weaponized both the silliness and the nastiness harder. This could have been a very different story.
Well, How to Make a Killing is out now if you want to go and watch. Okay, our next movie is called The Tasters. Now, this is a German drama, isn't it?
It is. This is a recently discovered, as in the last few decades, discovered true story that's been adapted for the screen in a sort of fictionalized sense. And it is about the women who were sort of abducted from their homes, in some cases, simply offered jobs in others, who served as Adolf Hitler's tasters. Yeah, no one knew they existed.
Wow.
These were a group of a half a dozen women who would sit around a dining table in a private, off to the side dining room. They would all sit around, and all 6 would be served what Hitler was about to be served. Well, 1 hour before Hitler. And the idea was that, threats against the Fuhrer were so strong at this point that they couldn't risk the idea of uncontaminated food, someone slipping in poison or anything like that. The idea was that these women were expendable. They took the hit first. This idea actually goes back to ancient Rome, as far as I understand. I think the Roman emperors used to have someone who would taste the food before them. But in this case, it was they had an hour. They would eat the meal whilst sobbing in absolute terror, never knowing if this meal would be their last. And there were a few that did get poisoned, obviously. And they would have every meal, at the end of tears, never knowing, say, this would be the dinner that killed them. And then they had to wait an hour under supervision before they were allowed to, continue with their lives, and the dinner could be served to Adolf Hitler. That is the movie. We haven't got a clip, obviously, because it's all subtitled. Now, the idea alone is fascinating, right?
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea.
Right? If you heard that story, you're a filmmaker and you hear that story, you don't immediately think, I have to make that movie. You're an idiot. Because amazing story that I really can't believe we didn't know. It's one of those things that you're like, oh, well, of course that existed. When it's pointed out to you, like, oh, yeah, of course that existed. That makes complete sense, given what we know of the time and the Nazi party, etc., and Hitler's cult of leadership. But again, it's only recently uncovered. I think it was The Last Survivor. It was her. This is based on her recovered documents and interviews with her, I believe. And really interesting film. I think a bit too drawn out. I feel like it went on slightly too long. It's slightly too somber and not quite. I hate to use the word sensationalized. It could be a little bit punchier, but it is a slow burn kind of movie. I was taken in by the sort of individual character arcs. One woman in particular, is going to work and coming home to her parents and literally explaining what it is that she does, kind of thing, and how they come into contact with the resistance and things like that simply by virtue of where they are. And the idea, it's a very interesting exploration of not even these characters, but also of life in a particular fashion, in a favoured position of employment within the Nazi party, at that time. It's an intriguing viewpoint, actually. Like I say, a little bit slow, but superbly performed, really well captured. I thought it was really well brought to life. I was taken in by it.
It sounds intriguing, it really does. The Tasters is what it's called. It's out in cinemas from now if you want to go and see it. Right, 2 more movies on the way. We're going to look at Scarlet and Reminders of Him in just a second. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen then. We're going to look at the movie Scarlet in just a little bit, which is a Japanese anime movie, I believe. So we'll see what Van thought of that one in a minute. We're going to dive into Reminders of Him, first of all. This is listed in front of me as a dark romance, but I'm always dubious with these because you then go, nah, not really.
Do you remember It Ends With Us? With Blake Lively. We didn't actually review it, but obviously you can't have avoided the news coverage on it in the last year and a half kind of thing. Do you remember that one?
I do, vaguely, yeah.
Right, so there was that and another one we didn't review. It was called Reminders of You, which both of which are based on novels by Colleen Hoover. Now, I believe that this is the third one that's actually been adapted for a film. Like I say, it's called Reminders of You. It stars Micah Monroe and Tariq Withers, who was if you're not familiar with Micah Monroe was the scream queen who emerged from It Follows and The Guest in the 2010s. Has kind of fell off the block a bit in the last sort of 5 years or so, but seems to be making a kind of a comeback. I'm a big fan of her. Most horror fans, especially among critics, are big fans of Micah Monroe. And Tariq Withers was the male lead, the young lead in Him, the satanic whiplash-like American football movie that we reviewed a while back, which I would watch again. That was really messed up. I enjoyed that. A lot of people did. So they are the leads here. This sees Micah Monroe as a young woman who is returning to a small town. This is going to I'm going to warn you. This stretches credibility a bit. Right. This is going to sound like
Okay.
Bear with this plot because it gets a bit far-fetched. Right. She returns to a small town in Wyoming that she lived in at a point, but didn't seem to know many people. And she had this romance with this manic pixie dream boy that she fell in love with, who came from a nice family on the richer side of the tracks. You know, she worked in a supermarket, and he is it a supermarket? She worked in the dollar store or something. He was like, you know, rich kid or whatever. And they meet, they fall in love. Her parents sort of accept her and everything. One night they go out to celebrate. They get into a car accident. He is pinned down. It looks like he's dead. She goes off for help. And at some point blacks out. And when she comes to, has been blamed for his death in a reckless driving incident that sends her to prison for several years, during which she discovers she's pregnant. The child is then taken away from her and given to his parents. She gets out of prison, returns to, the town in the present day, and wants nothing more than to see her daughter, but is being gate-kept away from said daughter by both the parents and her late partner's, fiance's best friend, who conveniently she never met and doesn't meet until after she's had this sort of meet cute and starts to get all fuzzy with. You know what I mean? It's that kind of movie. So have a listen. This is the latest Colleen Hoover adaptation, Reminders of Him.
Can I ask you something? Do you hate me?
You know, the other night when we met at the bar, I thought you were, I don't know, intriguing. And then the next day in front of Patrick and Grace's side, I thought you were the worst person ever.
And what about now?
Now, I'm starting to wonder if you're the saddest girl I've ever met.
All of the above, I guess.
Ugh, is all I can say to that. To me, that's too sickly sweet.
I mean, to be fair, It Ends With Us, and from what I can gather, Regretting You, were very similarly pitched as well. It's that exact same tonal mixture of, familial relationship, heightened melodrama. You know what I mean? This is basically Nicholas Sparks stuff, but written by a woman. Like, you know what I mean? So it actually does get the female gaze down, from what I can gather, a lot better. Obviously, getting that approximation from the women in my life's judgment, not my own. But I will say this. Of the three Colleen Hoover movies, this has the two best leads. like far and away, like has the two best leads. I mean, not only are these two hot, even if he does look weirdly like Channing Tatum's previously undiscovered younger mixed race brother. Like it's the weirdest thing. He
does.
not only looks but sounds like Channing Tatum. But he's clearly mixed race as well. So you're like, I feel like if Channing Tatum had a mixed race younger brother, it is Tariq Withers. And I kind of weirdly thought that when we were reviewing him a while back as well. But they actually work really well. There is chemistry there. The thing that undermines the entire movie, is it is nonsensically far-fetched. Like, I can see why Colin Hoover's books sell. Because if this kind of concept is in every single one of them, then yeah, great. Okay, you've cracked the code there. I'm sure airports see these things flying off of shelves. You know what I mean? Like it's quite. This is a holiday read. You know what I mean? This is a slushy millennial woman's holiday read. Like that, you know exactly who this is aimed at. In fact, given that the movie constantly refers back to various different versions of the Coldplay song "Yellow." Like, that tells, does that not tell you right there exactly who this is aimed at?
Yeah, it absolutely does. But I'm assuming that doesn't take too much away from the movie for you. It was still a decent movie.
But no, to be fair, on the level on which it's operating, you know, this is doing the kind hearts and coronets thing. If I'm viewing the movie outside of context, I'm viewing it on its own level, then the movie, it's flawless, it works, you know, kind of thing. I have to accept that this is the most convoluted plot ever. Like, the best friend was just very busy for that many years. I mean, my own best friend will tell you that I am crap at keeping in touch. But I do see him once a year minimum. You know what I mean? Like, I know what his wife and kids look like. It would absolutely strain credibility if I was gone for like 3 years, and not only did I not know what his girlfriend looked like, I didn't know, based on the fact that she went to trial and went to prison for his death, never looked up or went to court, know what she looks like. That is bonkers level plotting. Like, okay, cool. And they really do whittle it down to he was busy. And that is it. And you start thinking, this is a movie that constantly relies... And she, for instance, has lived in this town, but everything seems to be new to her. Like, it's quite insane. But it makes no sense. Yeah, but you know what? If you're someone that just sat there and enjoyed It Ends With Us, didn't think about it too much, but this is kind of sweet and I'm going along with it kind of thing. I didn't personally, my mum did. I remember watching it with my mum and she was a big fan of it, but I think she mostly just fancied Justin Baldoni, if I'm being real. In fact, both guys in that movie about domestic abuse, it's worth noting, my mother thought were hot. So she's got issues there.
Bad boys.
Someone that, maybe that. That's Australian members. Anyway, Brendan Sklenar, I think it is in that movie. It's the Australian one. So if you're someone that likes the Colin Hoover canon anyway, then obviously this is going to be right up your alley. But if you're someone that was kind of turned away from any of the Colin Hoover adaptations before, if you're someone that has an issue with Nicholas Sparks movies, Notebook, Best of Me, kind of Nicholas Sparks movies, stay away from this. But actually, I didn't mind it on its own merits. I was kind of taken away. I thought they were very charming, and I was in. Nonsense, but I was in.
If you want to check it out, Reminders of Him is already in cinemas, so you can. Right, shall we move on to our next movie? So it's called Scarlet. This is a Japanese anime movie, which we don't cover very often.
Because they never press show them. Right, I've told you this before, haven't I? Whenever we've done them in the top 10, whenever there has been, and there have been some massive ones, obviously, as you know from the box office top 10. Anime movies that have opened at like number 2 and taken in like £2 million and things like that. You're like, wow, okay, what? And we've always said they don't pressure them. Why don't they pressure them? I might have an idea why after seeing this. Just throwing it out there. Yeah, so we trundled along. We saw this on, was it Tuesday afternoon? This was the middle of the day. And bear in mind, this is being distributed by Sony, so we have to go all the way out to Paddington and back. And this is an animated loose adaptation of Hamlet. in which a young warrior's father is slain, sent to the underworld by her corrupt warrior uncle Claudius, who marries her mother, takes over the kingdom. She swears to avenge her father. I mean, obviously, this is the plot of the Northman as well. We're keeping tabs, you know what I mean? Hamlet, Northman, you know what I mean? Hamlet, Northman, Lion King. Northman, Lion King. It goes in that sort of order.
Yeah.
And we do the plot of Hamlet for about an hour. And then, about the point that they kill her, all of a sudden we're in the present day. We've gone from like fantasy realm, anime, dragon era stuff, and we're in the modern day with a paramedic who somehow gets tied into this netherworld that she's in, and they team up to travel through time and eventually slay Claudius and take back and save the kingdom. That's as far as I understand it. Now, if I sound confused, it's because I am. I'm still very confused, if I'm honest. I've seen this and I've had several days to process it. I'm still quite confused by it. Because about the point that you're doing Hamlet and then suddenly you introduce time travel.
Yeah, a bit bizarre, that.
My brain was starting to melt at a point. It's not even out of convolution. It's between that and the boredom. Because it's a really slow, agonizingly long, laboured film. It is only an hour and 51 minutes in length, but believe me, you will feel every one of those minutes, my friend. Oh. You will feel all 1 hour and 51 of them. You will. And, I can say that in my head, I was able to plan about 3 weeks' worth of show outlines. That was good.
And dinner.
Yeah, I planned dinner for that night. No, it just didn't grab me at all. I could not kind of clamp onto this in any way. It's kind of actually did make me think about why is it that we never got an adaptation of the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of Hamlet that we saw in Last Action Hero. Do you remember that one? Claudius, you killed my father. Big mistake.
See, that'd be great now.
That'd be fantastic now. Come on, I say, in fact, that's an ethical use of AI right there. Okay, so someone give the money to Arnie and let Arnie use an AI to de-age himself and restage an entire version of Hamlet in the style of what is shown in the 1993 John McTiernan movie Last Action Hero. A movie I love so much that at no fewer than 3 different points in my life have I had 3 different framed posters of that movie on my wall. That is a genuine thing.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't particularly think it's something even anime fans would enjoy. I think it's a bit too all over the shop. Really wasn't for me. Also, weirdly, this is the third version of Hamlet I've seen in 3 months.
Yeah, there's lots popping up, really, isn't it? And I went to see Hamlet last summer.
Yeah, if you include Hamnet, which obviously is going to win Best Actress this week, you've then got the Riz Ahmed one as well, the recent one, the updated one that's in the modern day, and then you've got this. We've also had 3 spins at Frankenstein. If you think about Guillermo del Toro, The Bride, and what was the other Frankenstein as well? There was a Smell-O-Vision one that I just saw. Sorry, and I'm weirdly that's another one I've seen 3 of in 3 months. Which is I saw a scratch and sniff movie the other night. I don't know if I told you this.
No. What? So during the movie you sniff?
Yeah. A little number pops up on screen, and you have a scratch card with 10 panels on it, and it says number 3 in the corner. So you scratch off panel number 3, and it corresponds to a smell on screen.
Imagine if they did that with Train Spotting.
I will say the movie they did it with was a horror movie. So yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, point of the story: Scarlet. Not really much worth talking about there. The end, I guess.
Well, if you decide that you want to make your own mind up for that, you can, because it's in cinemas from now. Right then, we got one last ride coming up. It's called One Last Deal, and this is a thriller, and we're going to see what Van thought of it next. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen then for our final movie of the week. And this is called One Last Deal. It's a thriller and it's got Danny Dyer in, which I'm happy with because I'm a fan of Danny Dyer. I've loved his work since the business days.
So you're a fan of Danny Dyer? You like a bit of Danny Dyer, that's right, is it, Mr. Ball? We like a bit of Danny Dyer. Well, do you know what? I've got the perfect movie for you, my friend. I've got a movie that's all Danny Dyer. In fact, it's about nothing else. Every single minute of this film is Danny Dyer, more Danny Dyer, and nothing but Danny Dyer. Okay.
Oh, no.
I'm not even kidding. So this is an 89-minute movie, right, that takes place in a single room in this office, and is just Danny Dyer on the phone.
Wow.
Okay? Right, really? Okay, so I'm not taking the mick when I say if you like Danny Dyer, you're about to get all the Danny Dyer you can handle, son.
I'm not sure I want that much, though.
Well, you better. Right, so Danny Dyer is Jimmy Banks. Jimmy Banks has the personality, looks, demeanour, and interpersonal skills of Danny Dyer. He is also the only thing that separates him from being Danny Dyer is the fact that he's a football agent. Like, he's, a talent agent, like, negotiates. Other than that, he's Danny Dyer. Okay? This is a dramatic thriller, by the way, just so we're clear. Right? Think phone booth. Okay? He's signing deals, he's trying to get he's got one client who's in court for like charges of sexual assault, whatever, and he's waiting on this verdict, hoping he can get off on that. He's got another client that he's trying to sign to this big contract that's going to make his year and pay off all his debts, etc. He's recovering from drugs, he's trying to hold off the booze, but he keeps going back under stress. And then he gets a call out of the blue from a mysterious, unknown anonymous party using a voice changer, who says, I've got dirt on your star client. I'm going to release it and derail all of your business dealings in the space of one day unless you give me X amount of money. And this, of course, leads to Danny Dyer doing a lot of swearing. It's a lot of swearing into a Bluetooth earpiece. And mugs. Yeah, there's more mugs in this movie. There are more verbalized mugs in this movie than there are literal mugs in IKEA. I'm not even kidding. Everyone's a mug. But, so that's the format. Have a listen. This is One Last Deal.
You're taking advantage, man. Slapping a girl so that you can lowball. You're going to pay him what he's worth.
In all my years in soccer management, I have never met such an unprofessional agent.
Well, we call it football here.
Woo!
Who the is this?
This is someone who has the power to decide how the rest of your life unfolds.
All right, Jim, what can we do here? There's to be a way out of this. I need you to help me.
Someone has got some serious on us.
How much do they want?
4 million. Come on.
I don't want to go to Madrid yet. What if I don't get any game time?
Game time. If this gets out, his contract will be pulled. Do you understand what that means for me? I don't just do this job. I am this job.
Now, I'm guessing low budget, one set to pay for, which is fine if the story's great. Yeah. I'm just not sure. I just feel like I'd be a bit claustrophobic with just one set.
I mean, it's not even about that. It really is. I've seen versions of this done. I made comparisons, actually, to the Tom Hardy movie Lock when I saw it. Have you ever seen Lock? It's just Tom Hardy in a car making phone calls on his hands-free. And his whole life is crumbling. Right. If you watched this and then if you watched Lock and this back to back, the only possible comparison I could give you would be like watching Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Robin Hood, Men in Tights back to back. Albeit a version of Men in Tights that was not intentionally a comedy. That's the only thing I can say. This is hilarious, but it's hilarious in one of those. It's like the animals had their own Olympics kind of an idea. It's that kind of like. I appreciate that you are a Danny Dyer fan. And don't get me wrong, I can 100% see. If you are Danny Dyer, I understand why you do this movie, because this is your Hamlet, right?
Yeah.
In Danny Dyer's mind. In fact, I think he's actually said it, in some interview somewhere. I think he's called it his Hamlet. Because we were joking about it in the week. And you can see it. I mean, like I said to you, you're never going to be left wanting for Danny Dyer after this movie. This is 100% pure uncut Dyer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
which is a metaphor I use very appropriately for this one. It's slow, agonizing, self-indulgent, massively overcranked, OTT, dull, uninteresting, quite self-effacing. And I'll be honest with you, I honestly couldn't tell you at a certain point whether or not Danny Dyer was being A, truly committed to the bit, or just narcissistic. Like, it got to that stage with it. It felt really strained. And, like, put it this way, I firmly believe you could put Jason Statham in a version of this movie and it would probably be amazing. And I say that with the caveat there that I am putting it into the world. Danny Dyer does not have the acting range of Jason Statham, and this is a movie that firmly nails that idea shot.
Oh dear, Danny boy.
I can't help it.
Oh, that's a shame, because I had high hopes for this one, but I can see how they could have tripped up the way that you've described.
Yeah, it's just such a actually funny story about this one, because I haven't heard his review yet. Obviously, we're recording this on Thursday night, so obviously Kermode's review will come out tomorrow morning for us, and by the time anyone hears this, they'll probably both be out. I was listening to him. He was complaining about it so hard. It was the highlight. We saw this 2 weeks ago, right? And last week, I was looking through his reviews on YouTube. I noticed there wasn't a One Last Deal when I actually texted him and asked him. He goes, no, it's out next week. Oh, thank God. I thought I'd missed it, or it'd gone to his Patreon subscribers only. Because he's cool enough, he can have Patreon like tiers. And so it's this week I get to hear the Mark Kermode rant, and I cannot wait. If, like me, you are a Mark Kermode fan, do listen to his review, because I promise you're in for some fun. Because they put us in this very small screening room, the smallest screening room at Soho Screening Rooms, and we call it the cupboard, right? Because it literally is. I think it's maybe 12 seats.
Wow!
It's
like an aeroplane. It's like a private jet.
Small. Yeah, it's in a very small room, and they put us in there to watch this. There's only about 4 of us, to be fair, but you still feel quite packed in. And he was complaining afterwards, I just can't think of anything worse than literally being shoved in a cupboard with Danny Dyer. And it's just I'm like, I can't wait for next week. This is going to be amazing. So, yeah, do tune in. If you're a fan like me, tune in for Mark's review, which I promise you is doubtless, sight unseen, going to be way more entertaining than actually watching One Last Deal.
Well, if you want to check out One Last Deal yourself, maybe wait until you've heard Mark's review as well. You can decide on that one. It's out in cinemas from now. Right, should we have a little peek at next week? Because you did say off air before we came on that we've got the next 2 weeks are quite chock-a-block with decent movies. Well, movies. We don't know if they're decent yet.
Well, yeah, that's true. So next week, oh God, I thought I'd avoided having to talk about this one. Okay, Don't Be Prey is a documentary that's out next week. Sorry, I'm aware that I went a bit... Whenever I have that mode, I sound a bit crusty the clownish. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a documentary called Don't Be Prey out next week. I was one of 3 people in a 45-seat screen for this. And... yeah, do you know what? We can include that next week because I don't think we'll need to take more than a minute to discuss it, if I'm being honest. We've also got The Good Boy, which I can't wait to talk about with you. It's a new movie starring Stephen Graham. You know, from Adolescence?
Oh, yeah, I like him. He's great.
It's him and Andrea Riseborough. You are going to love this thing. It is twisted. I am a big fan. I thought I was going to have to exclude it from I thought I'd forgotten to put it in this week's reviews until I noticed it at the bottom of the page. I'm like, oh, thank God it's next week because I really want to talk about it. Like it was a really interesting film and it came out of nowhere and really surprised me. So can't wait to talk about that. Midwinter Break is the latest older actors romantic drama starring Kieran Hines and I think Leslie Manville. Animated Best Animated Academy Award nominee Arco is out next week. We have Dead Man's Wire, which is some kind of thriller next week. La Grazia, which might be a reissue, I think. And it's so weird that they would release these two in the same week. We've got horror sequel, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, which, of course, I'm obligated to be there, like, you know, first in line because it co-stars Sarah Michelle Gellar. So, you know, if Buffy's in a movie in 2026, I'm there. I'm like, it's like if Hilary Duff's touring, I'm obligated to be there. You know what I mean?
Naturally.
But we've also, and this is the one I think will interest you more next week, we've got, because you know I saw this about 3 weeks ago, Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling.
Yes.
Interested to hear Ryan Gosling befriends a space lobster.
Yeah.
But, yeah. A space rock lobster. I'm trying to find a way to do rock lobster with space rock lobster because it's But we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what the hell that one's all about and how that is. But yeah,
rock
plenty.
lobster in space.
It's just like snakes on a plane or something else on a train.
No, it's from the guy that wrote The Martian, actually. Do you remember The Martian with Matt Damon? That was based on a bestseller. He's had a couple other best-selling novels since. Artemis is one, which I haven't actually read it. And there's this, Project Hail Mary. And people who loved the book have been like telling me for years about, oh, you wait until that comes out, it's going to be great. My friend Calvin was really big on it. He's like, you wait until that comes out, that's going to be right up your alley. Like, if they do any justice, like, if they even do a half-decent job, you will love the movie. It'll be right up your alley. And, so it's very much for, like, fans of The Martian and things like that, but a little bit... Think The Martian meets Contact or Interstellar. There you go.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep my mind open for that one, and we'll see what you thought of that next week. Looking forward to those. That's all we've got time for on Off Screen this week. We will return next week, and until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor. Keep it cinematic, and we shall return.
I'm Grace from Red Rum True Crime, and this is The Final Cut. I am thrilled to have Alice from Truly Criminal here.
Hello! Oh my gosh, I am so excited.
We are going to be tackling every single one of the Paranormal Activity films.
There is nothing more frightening, I don't think, than being upstairs and hearing a noise coming from downstairs and having to go and investigate it.
Stop! Mika. Oh, Mika.
And then she says, you should answer the door first, and the doorbell rings.
No, I don't like it. I've just put my feet up on my chair. You know, when like I don't want it to get me from under the bed. Oh my god! Find us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.